And I like to say, where do I start? At the beginning, I guess. So I am Danielle Gilmore, and I'm currently the executive director of the Black Mediation Center, a fairly new organization that I had the opportunity and pleasure and gratitude and all the above to be able to incorporate in October of 2025. So we are very new, not fairly new, very new, and becoming an incorporated organization. So, and take you back a little bit, this project started in 2018, and two professors at the University of Toronto came together and decided that they wanted to work with families in the child welfare system. One of those professors is Dr. Lance McCready. The other is Dr. Bryn King, both who are still active professors at University of Toronto. Um, and they said they came together. Dr. Lance McCready's research and work is mostly in adult education, higher education, that aspect of things. And Dr. Bryn King's work is mostly in social work, child welfare reform, specifically. And so they came together and said, okay, what can we do to help families to keep them from going into the court system around some of what's expected of them through the child welfare system? So we primarily work with Children's Aid Society for our referrals. However, we have opened ourselves up to other community organizations to refer families to us to work with. And what we use is called family group conferencing. And the governing body over that model is George Hall Family Center. And so we have a coordinator who is certified to do family group conferencing, both in person and online. We have the opportunity to work with individuals outside of the GTA virtually. So we are always grateful for referrals, even if they aren't in the Greater Toronto Area GTA. Um, what else can I say just as an outset? What is a family group conference? So essentially, we get the opportunity to support a family. We'll have someone for the Children's Aid Society reach out to us and say, "Hey, we have a family who we want to put together a care plan on how they'll go forward with supporting children or dissolving a relationship, etc." And we have our coordinator meet with the family, which usually takes about 5 to 7 or so meetings before we actually get the opportunity to do a conference. And so at a conference, we'll have the family who we're supporting, we'll have the caseworker from Children's Aid Society, and we'll have our coordinator. And together they come up with a plan that they'll use to go forward. This plan fits into whatever it is that Children's Aid Society is expecting of this family. And once the plan is in place, they go forward, and the outcome could be that the family receives their children back from foster care. The plan could be that the children go and are with extended kin, etc. Like we've had so many families in so many different ways that we've been able to support said families. And as it shows here, we specifically work with the African, Caribbean, and Black community, which means that all of our services are culturally adapted. And what that looks like as far as our family group conferencing is we don't just go in and support families with the conference. We've also had opportunities to support with immigration, housing, food insecurity support, you name it, because we're working with the community that is very I don't want to use the word marginalized, but I think we all understand that there are certain communities amongst us who have a harder time, a harder go at having a healthy life. So we work with communities who can need all kinds of support in that way, and we're grateful to be able to do it. Um, what else would I like to say? Like I said, this isn't very polished. I just like to have a conversation. Also, if anything comes up, I tend to talk a bit fast when I'm a little anxious, and I'm a little anxious. So if that's happening right now, stop me and say, "Hey, slow this thing down, Danielle. We have some questions," or whatever the case may be. But as I mentioned, we primarily at this time are working with families. So we started in 2018, and all of our work was mostly families. We'd meet with families on up until about 2019, 2020, when there was some talk around us wanting to serve youth who were aging out of care. And we wanted to support these youth in the same ways that we've supported families, which is with a conference. So it's been a little challenging for us to connect with youth because there are different we've noticed that there are different approaches to communication than with our families who are a bit more mature. We have, at this point, we have a coordinator who's a little more mature as well. And so we've been working on putting together a model that will allow us to be able to access youth in a peer-to-peer kind of way of going about things. We're in the process now of applying for a grant that will specifically allow us to bring youth leaders into our organization who will help us be able to put a model in place, who will also be able to inform what it is that we're doing when it comes to youth care. We're really excited about this and we're looking forward to getting it submitted and seeing if we're the ones who receive some of the funding. It's a great opportunity and we're grateful. And I wanted to pull up this presentation. One of my colleagues put this together for me. And so this is actually my first time going through it fully. So as I mentioned, you all will bear with me because I am having a hard time with some of what's going on in my life, but still being able to see you all, especially some of the smiles is helping with that for sure. So, in this again, African, Caribbean, and Black Family Group Conference, and we have this as the header because this is before we became incorporated. So now that we're incorporated, the majority of what we disseminate says Black Mediation Center. And now the Family Group Conference and Service is under the umbrella of our Black Mediation Center. And coming towards the end of this, I'll talk with you a bit more about some of the other services that we currently provide under the Black Mediation Center. Also, too, just to put it out there, U of T is our research partner. So our project is still housed in the University of Toronto on their campus. My office is in the Oisey building on Bloor Street. But we always have to talk with people and say, we are housed at the University of Toronto. We don't have any access to that funding that the university has, billions, of course. We are housed there, and we get the opportunity to be housed at the University of Toronto because the project began with two professors. So, and that's fun sometimes to have to balance that line between academia and community. It really requires me to be able to put on whatever face I need to, depending on who I'm connecting with. It helps to sharpen me, that's for sure. Because I don't know if any of you know, but academia is not always the kindest. We do come across very kind people and nice. We have nice interactions, but it isn't always the kindest overall. So allows me to put on good faces in multiple ways. So our family group conference, and this specifically, this presentation is for the safe transition of youth who are leaving care. And that's been a focus that we're working on putting a model in place for, as I mentioned. And here are just some of the statistics that we came across while we were putting this together. So, as far as aging out of the foster care system, typically 54% of individuals will earn a high school diploma. 1 in 5 individuals will be homeless within 1 year. I believe this data is from 2023, 2022 or 2023. 1 in 4 will potentially be incarcerated within 2 years. Less than 3% will earn a bachelor's degree. And 71% of our folks, we don't only want to say women now, we want to say individuals, period, who can become pregnant. 71% of folks end up pregnant, as well as 50% will be unemployed by the age of 24. We don't like this at all. We don't like this at all, which is why we want to start this programming where we can connect with individuals before they even get out of the foster care system. We're in the process of developing what we call a warm handoff with some of the workers at Children's Aid Society, where they can bring us in and where we can start having these very important conversations with groups of individuals before they're asked to leave the system, so to speak. And we've now had the opportunity to have 3 focus groups, all youth who have left foster care, to have conversations with us about some of what it is that they'd like to see, and some of the challenges. And some of the challenges that we've heard just about from every focus group is a lack of stability and how that negatively impacts the ability to access certain supports like education, like housing, like employment. And of course, some of these marginalized communities, which would be our Black youth overall, and that's African, Caribbean, and Black youth. So that spans the entire the entire spectrum there. Black youth experience greater barriers in accessing some of the supports that are necessary for having a good life, so to speak. The barriers are transitioning to adulthood and navigating some of the adult services. These are things that there's the expectation that you'll leave care and you're supposed to know how to do these things without any guidance or support, right? And so we are looking for this idea that youth will be able to stay in some kind of care and contact up until the age of 21 or so, right? Because usually folks leave care at 18, some as early as 16.
Hmm.
Was
Yep.
someone
Those
saying,
are,
I hear someone, is that Brandy?
yes. Yeah.
Hey, Brandy, what's going on?
I just muted. So
Oh, say hi, Brandy, Bradley. That's a lot of name there, but hi, Brandy.
Sorry about that, everybody.
That's okay. I was going to make you introduce yourself and then join me in presenting. Do you want to do that? No.
No.
Okay.
No,
Just
not today.
not today. Just checking.
Another day. No
Okay.
problem.
Next time. Got you. So something else that's come about, right? This increased isolation. I think all of us can speak to this idea of wanting to be in connection with family and friends and chosen family, right? And so something that we've heard multiple times in some of our focus groups is a lack of family, a lack of culture. There's this feeling of being alone and isolated once you've been taken out of the network where you could go and access a caseworker, where you could go and say, hey, I'm struggling with this, and you can get that kind of support that tends to go away once you've aged out of care. And so, what are some of the ways that we can keep that as a priority? Because we've come to understand that being in contact with family, having the cultural supports, et cetera, really support recidivism with some of the individuals that we said on the last slide who could potentially find themselves in legal trouble, right? We're all about making sure that we speak to the whole person. You know, what's going on in your life? What's your current circumstances? What does it look like for you to be supported through some of it? Is what we focus on. And some of the needs that we've continued to come in contact with, as I mentioned, the social connections, the relationships with individuals who help thrive, family ties, right? Youth having the right to maintain cultural identity, because that's also something that's challenging when we find ourselves in systems that can sometimes be like this one fits all kind of process. Then we don't take into consideration the importance of cultural identity, family identity, some of what makes up the entire human being. Again, we like this to run with this idea of we want to address the entirety of the individual. Even though we specifically do our work with African, Caribbean, and Black community members, we understand that some of what goes into culture and background is far reaching. We want to also make sure that folks have access to consistent educational and employment supports, which, as I mentioned, one of the professors on the project, Dr. Lance McCready, specifically works with supporting adults in education, and also youth who are becoming older, over the 18, 19, 20, 21 age. He actually ran a really wonderful project where he would bring individuals in from the community who completed a high school diploma or something similar to be able to have a year on campus at the University of Toronto to see if it's something that they'd like to do to continue a degree. That's been a really popular program that he's had the opportunity to run. It's been incredible. Um, Access to quality housing and support in that way. I know that StepStones, I had the opportunity to have a conversation with Heather, and she talked a little bit about some of the housing and incentives that were available to youth who were looking for that kind of support. And again, navigating the adult services for a smoother transition into adulthood overall. You know what? I'm still trying to smoothly transition into adulthood, okay? And I'm not gonna tell you all how old I am because it's none of your business. But no, really, I think we can all use that kind of ongoing support regardless of what age we are. Um, and this specialized process, right? Some of the legislative changes that continue to happen for child, youth, and family services, like just the Child, Youth, and Family Services Act, things continue to change. Who is considered a youth? What kind of funding can be received? Just like we're seeing with some of what's going on now with the government as far as OSAP. Like things are constantly changing, and what we want to make sure that we're doing is keeping youth in the loop of what's going on, right? And also this idea of the focus on early intervention. There are some of the community members who don't have this kind of access that fall through the gap. It just happens. We fall through the gap, you fall out of care, you are out of the loop of what's going on, and then you become more vulnerable. And so supporting education is important. Reducing homelessness important because in doing so, that also tackles things like human trafficking, like addiction and those things, which we don't go into too much detail because we are not certified to do much with addictions, but we do come across individuals in some of our conferences who do live with those kind of challenges. Also, too, making services more culturally appropriate. As I mentioned, our services are culturally adaptive in the way the governing body for us, as far as George Hall family, um, an individual is expected to have a conference completed in 30 days. That's the standard for the organization overall who certifies us. But we don't have that option because oftentimes when we're supporting families, there are things that come up like transportation or things that come up like employment that people can't get time off from work or individuals have housing insecurity or food insecurity. And so we're trying to figure out what wraparound services look like. So our process could take anywhere from 60 days to 90 days instead of the standard 30 days. And this is what we mean when we say culturally adaptive services. We take into consideration the whole person, the whole experience, some of what's going into navigating life, being in some of these marginalized communities, and it's expensive, some of the supports that are needed. And also improving the oversight of service providers overall. More specifically, as I mentioned, Children's Aid Society is where we currently receive the majority of our referrals, but we have been branching out and having conversations with other organizations in the community who specifically work with youth as well. But we want to make sure that our youth are receiving this consistent, high quality service across Ontario. Because not only are there individuals who are falling through the crack, we also feel like there are organizations who are slipping through the crack as well and not getting the kind of trainings that they need to be able to support some of these communities who have specialized needs for support. And we also offer a training through our Black Mediation Center. And I heard at the beginning that there will come a time where I'll be able to share some resources with you all. I'll share a resource for what's called our UGMA training, where we actually train and support individuals in the child welfare system and beyond who work specifically with African, Caribbean, and Black families. You're able to complete our training and receive a micro credit from the University of Toronto. So that's something that we're in the process of continuing to build up on as well. And it's been going really well so far. We have some really wonderful mediators and individuals in the community who lead these trainings. So it's something that we want to also continue to raise up to as an offering in the community through our organization. So this whole idea around why we need family group conferences, specifically, I'm speaking to youth now, not the families that we've worked with. But again, reiterating this family ties piece, the importance of preserving culture where we can, right? Families and youth having access to the services available to them and being able to participate in decision making. Another reason why we provide our services is we want to give a voice to the individuals who have found themselves in these systems, right? Because there's a lot of assumptions made and thoughts and ideas around families who have ended up in the child welfare system. There's this negative stigma attached to it, like they've done something wrong or they have some kind of lack, and that's not always the case. There are some individuals who immigrate here to Canada, and specifically, I'm speaking to the GTA who don't have access to some of the things that are deemed necessary to raise a child. And so they are on the radar of the Children's Aid Society really before they get the opportunity to settle into their communities, right? And so we want to make sure that we are protecting those individuals for some of the neglect and harm that comes along with navigating these systems, even if you do speak the language, right? A lot of the individuals we work with are English as second language, and we have the opportunity to provide folks to come and do interpretations, etc., from other languages. And that's been really wonderful. Also, we work on focusing on a strength-based approach to some of what we want to make changes around. As I mentioned, some of the families who immigrate here to Canada, there can be all of this conversation around skill sets and what actually lands here as something that's valuable and so on and so forth. And so we want to focus on the strength as our community members because we all have something good about us that we can share and that needs to be built upon. We need the right amount of people, the right amount of resources, etc., to remind us just how much we actually do have going on for ourselves. And that can be a challenge in these systems where it's all about get someone in, get someone out, so that we can make space for someone else instead of slowing down the process and taking time to really explain to families, well, this is what we're looking for. These are some of the reasons why you are with us and we're with you. And how can we send you out from here your best self? You, your children, the youth, etc. So it's a big challenge, but we are willing to take it on. And again, I said I had my colleague put this together, and she really enjoys words. So I'm seeing that I am not going to go through all of this. I'm going to let you folks know this because I don't want to bore you and I don't want to bore myself. But mostly we continue to talk about systematic and institutionalized racism, right? And racism isn't a dirty word. Really, what we look at it as is getting individuals to understand that there are differences in the ways that you're treated when you show up a particular way. We're not interested in blaming or shaming, but what we are interested in is collective wellness. We want to bring the community together to start having these challenging conversations, right? Because it's happening in front of us. We can see the barriers. We can see what's happening to the youth who are aging out, what's specifically happening to the Black youth who are aging out, what specifically happens to Black families who find themselves in the child welfare system, and some of what they need to navigate all of what's going on. So we really work on calling these things out and calling individuals in as we see more opportunities for collaboration and connectiveness in some of the services that we're providing. Again, we've talked a bit about the objectives here, and the bigger one, if you take away anything, is to provide support to Black youth and families, specifically providing support to Black youth who are transitioning out of care, but families overall. And some of what is really important to us around our family group conferences with youth, right? We want youth as leaders. We want them to be the experts of their life. And what that means for us is as we've done these focus groups, we've had youth talk with us about how they feel voiceless. So in some of the processes that we're working on putting in place, we actually want the youth to be the leaders because we feel like they are the experts and have a great understanding of what goes into these challenges that come about with being in the child welfare system overall and ultimately being asked to leave it when you become a particular age. So that whole piece around collective and mutual participation, we have really great opportunities to connect with organizations like your own and start having these conversations around what does it look like to collaborate with each other, to build a strong net, to catch these individuals who are newly released out into the community with very little skills, etc. Just because they have little skills doesn't mean that they cannot build upon them and develop stronger ones. But we have to really come together and become the net, become the wraparound service collective to catch individuals and support them in some of these ways. And also too, and I've had conversations with lots of my friends at the Children's Aid Society. Yes, I have friends there. I know the Children's Aid Society can sometimes be a dirty word or a dirty group of words with people, but we have had this conversation about their workloads, right? We have to take into consideration that each caseworker there could have, you don't know how many families or how many children on their roster, and it takes a toll. But we've also started having this conversation about what does it look like to tailor make a tailor make a experience for an individual that doesn't call on too much energy of a caseworker? What does that look like to get specifically focused on individual care plans instead of the just, take it, here you are, this is what we do, we check A, B, C, and now you go on and this is what you can expect from us. But what does it look like to actually take time to put together individual specific care plans that can help folks thrive in what it is that's already a strength that they present with? And that is an ongoing, continued work in progress, but we are absolutely up for the challenge, let me tell you. Some days we're more up for it than others, but we stay up for it. Key questions. These are some questions that we put together from some of these opportunities that we've had to have these focus groups with youth. This is something that I'm going to share with you as well. Like, I'll share this entire presentation so you can look over these questions if you're having your own focus groups, or if you're having these conversations with other organizations about how you two can come together, you three, four, five can come together. And like I said, be that net to catch some of our youth who are aging out. Then these might be some questions that could be supportive. More questions, and I'm upset with my colleague for making them this small because she knows that I wear glasses. But here we are, right? I'll send these questions out as well, and you can take a look at them and see if they will help your organization with any of the work that you have going on. So some of the tools around the goal setting that we want to work with youth, right? What does it look like to be stably housed? What does it look like to be gainfully employed? To receive the kind of education that you'd like to send you off into whatever direction you'd like to go in professionally. What does community, culture, and social connections look like, right? Adult services that'll help you access some of what you need to thrive. In relationships, relationships, relationships. I am a huge advocate for the importance of relationships and connection. I think they make the world go around. In that way, I can be a little bit of a hippie, I guess you would call it. I actually hug trees, folks. I love them. But that's another aside there. But no, I really believe in the importance of relationships because I found myself in some of the relationships that I've ended up in. And I think that's kind of how this thing works. I connect with someone, they see in me something that may be undiscovered in themselves, and we go forward and we work on cultivating it in both of us as we relate to each other. So relationships rock my socks. In a youth plan, right? So continued care and support. This is a policy that was going on that, again, my colleague put in here, and bless her, and I'm grateful for her. But I'm going to skip over this policy. It'll be present for you to review once I send you all this presentation. And if you want to have further discussion with me when I'm not sleepy from being awake, I don't know you folks that joined me. I was very transparent and let everyone know that I'm currently in the NICU with my 9-day-old son. So I wanted to make sure that I kept this commitment. So I'm here with you all, and I'm glad to be. But yeah, if you want to talk more with me about that, once I send the email out, then send me an email and we can meet and talk more. Some of what we've already discussed here around putting together a youth plan, right? Relationships, health, well-being, housing, community connections. Life skills management came up really, really big in some of the focus groups that we've had the opportunity to participate in. And what life skills management looked like differed among some of the youth that we had the opportunity to engage in conversation. Some specifically said, teach me how to cook. Some said, teach me how to balance my checkbook, how to open an account at a bank, how to be able to save, what it looks like to get certain accounts that will help me get interest. Like, there have been many, many needs identified, and we know that there are some organizations in the community that work specifically on financial literacy, and there are others who work on education and support in that way. And so again, we just really want to continue to have conversations like we're having today to figure out where we can meet each other. What does it look like to come together and say, these are my strengths. These are my strengths. Our powers combined, how can we help folks thrive? And then we have our FGC tool, which again, housing, education, employment, community, culture, social connections, adult services, right? something else that you can take a look at to see how some of these impact your organization now. What are you doing in the area of housing? Like I said, something that I had the opportunity to talk with Heather about was housing incentives that are available through StepStones, which is great. And other organizations that I'm in contact with, like the Career Foundation, help us put a piece in place around employment. And then various organizations who specifically work in the area of social connection, community, and culture. So there are many of us out here doing this work. Together, we definitely get better. Um, let's see. This again, something else that if you want to talk with me more about it when I send this out, let's do so. Consultation and decision making for our youth led, our coordinator. And we're actually in the process, as I mentioned earlier, as well as some of you who may just joined us. We're in the process now of working on having a youth led component of the Black Mediation Center overall, which means that we'll be interested in hiring coordinators who are younger and more in step with the age of some of the community that we want to serve in this way. We're also very interested in beginning youth circles that happen regularly, biweekly, monthly, etc., where you can come together and have conversations about their experiences and some of their needs for support and care. Also, too, the idea of having key people come in and have the conversations. We have certain folks on board with us, like oh, I can't remember her name right now, and I don't want to try to. But we have individuals on board with us right now from all kinds of areas. We have one of our Crown attorneys who comes in and has conversation with youth about certain centers. Like she helped to put together justice centers for youth. So we have individuals like that from the community who come and have these conversations with some of the youth that we continue to work on serving. And some of the areas to consider, as we've already discussed this, right? Civic engagement, youth leadership, gender identity. We don't go a lot into it, but our LGBTQIP2AA individuals who will need that kind of support, cultural identity and diversity, friendships, relationships, family support, youth-friendly communities, strong connections, housing, etc. All of these are some of our main focuses. And so some of the phases from how we go about working with the families, we mostly work with families now, but as I mentioned, we are transitioning some of this to work with youth as well. The way this works, we receive a referral, right? We do the information exchange with participants, what's your issue overall? How do you want to go about getting to a conference date? What exactly do you want to see in your conference, right? And then we move into our phase 3, the actual conference. We put together what the next steps will be. We have a plan in place to set out a life plan, support plan to help individuals go forward. And then usually we close out our case. So once we go through phase 1, 2, 3, essentially phase 1 finding, phase 2 putting together what exactly it is that we're going to be working on collectively, and phase 3 putting in place what it is that we've decided around what our work will look like together. And we send individuals out into the community with a plan that they had a lot of say in developing, and hopefully one that will sustain them going forward. We're still working on fleshing out what touch points can look like. I will say that's one of our spots right now that are a little tender, trying to figure out how we want to stay in contact with some of the family and youth that we support. We have one coordinator right now, and we're really in the process of putting together a system for her to be able to keep up with some of the individuals who we connect with and have like a 3-month touch point, a 6-month touch point, so we can have an understanding of how the plan that we put in place actually served the individual or the family, or how it didn't, and what are some of the ways that we can improve our services before we offer them to some other family or youth that we are grateful to be able to do the work we do with. And so the wanted outcome, right? This is actually after our phase 1, 2, and 3, right? And this is kind of what I touched on around that tender place for us and how we're wanting to make sure that we continue to engage our families and our youth. What wraparound services can we support with, right? The evolution of a plan. What started out as, okay, I need this kind of support or that kind of support as individuals start to navigate life as they know it. That plan starts to develop. And whereas someone initially said, I only need support with knowing how to open a bank account. Well, once you have a job in the bank account, this person says, I now need information on how to save, or I now need information on how to be able to secure housing, or I now. So as we put a plan in place, and that plan is not definite, right? It is an evolving plan. We like to think of it as a working plan, which means that it's constantly in process and evolving. So we want to make sure that we're able to support youth, specifically in this context, on how to evolve and what it can look like for us to stay in contact as well. So two models, right? As we mentioned, we went and we kind of did some comparison around our youth-led models and our family-led models. And with our family, we're more focused on an alternative dispute resolution. Like I said, a lot of the times we come up against a couple who's divorcing, or we come up against a family who is in connection with their foster family and trying to figure out the best outcome for youth. We have family deciding who gets to attend their family-led conference. We like to look at the family as the leader and the author and expert of this plan. I don't know how this little red situation got in there, but we're going to work with it. It's a little art. It's artwork in the presentation, right? We want to widen the circle of the referral. The worker who we support with, we consider them to be the gatekeeper of sorts in a positive way. We provide private family time. Preparation for the conference, really critical when we're working with a family, because there are all kinds of bits and pieces that are moving there more often than not. And then what is the follow-up rather, after the conference? What does the review look like? And with our youth-led models, it's more about transition planning, right? We have the youth who decides who's going to attend their conference. Youth also the leader of what's going on. And this is more permanency driven, meaning we want to establish what goals and outcomes, desires youth have, what it looks like to make their transition from care easier. We also want to talk more about family and kin support and search it out if it's needed to, if we need to. And then we have youth having the final say in an FGC. Like they get to say, I want that, I don't want that. We've spent this time together and I don't want anything to do with you. We hope they don't say that, but it's a real possibility. Or they say, hey, the services that you've provided have been great. Let's continue on to prepare and focus on what's next from this conference. And then we also work on following up after we've had the conference, something that we're still developing what we want that to look like fully. And then our findings. So some of what worked well, right? Focus on youth, their strengths, what supports they're looking for, give them a chance to meet with family, old and new members. Coordinators provide a supportive role. Private time is essential. And then some of what didn't work well is the conference taken over by family members when we are working specifically with youth. We have family members who want to have a bigger voice in what's going on. And so that's something else that we've been trying to figure out. What does it look like to leave a youth in the driver's seat when they are still very much connected with their family, or they bring their family back into the experience as part of their care plan? Because sometimes it's easy to be kind of caught back up in this whole idea of family knows best, and sometimes family does, but other times youth have an understanding of what works for them and it doesn't quite line up with what their family thinks works for them. And then that takes us into another bit of business where we have to understand what both sides want and how we can somehow meet in the middle through a mediation session. Excuse me. Our coordinator is also certified to do family mediation. See here, what's next? And some of our recommendations from some of the work that we've had the opportunity to do in the community so far. Very straightforward and simple. Black youth need better strategies to help them transition successfully out of care. These strategies must be age appropriate. They must also take into consideration cultural diversity, the diverse needs of the African Caribbean and Black family that we're serving, families and youth that we're serving. And we're also continuing to work on getting Children's Aid Society on board. We're being educated in some of the areas of what it looks like to support this demographic of individuals. Like I mentioned, we have 8 module training called the UGMA training that specifically speaks to this idea of making sure that individuals who are supporting the demographics that we work with are culturally sound. And of course, that's always developing, and this is not at all monolithic. However, we do have some experience and have done research in these areas that help us understand that there are certain tools and tips that work best with certain demographics in the community. So we're always willing to start a conversation and continue a conversation, knowing that all that we're putting in place is what I like to call working definitions, working strategies, meaning that they're always in process and never definitive, right? Because we let the people drive the experience. And when you have multiple people and multiple people join on and multiple people leave, then more experiences are being cultivated to help us come up with something that might differ from what we thought worked best before. That's it. And I don't understand this red line, people, but it's what's going to take us out. And I'm sure that I probably did something to it. So thank you for bearing with me for putting this big red whatever in the middle of this presentation. Thank you for your grace. That's it for our presentation. Thank you for listening to me rant a bit. And now I'm going to open the floor for, ooh, I see a lot of hand claps and hearts. Thank you. Thank you. Now I'm going to open the floor for any questions that anyone might have. I have a little time. I have a hard stop at 2, but I want to hear you and I want to know if there are any questions that you have for me around this work here that we are continuing to build on. Let's see. I'm looking in the chat. Oh. Diane, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. Michael, I hope you were able to hear me after a while. Michael said there was no sound. I'm having difficulties hearing the presentation. Michael, please let me know if you were able to hear it. If not, send me an email and you and I can meet individually where I'll go through all of it again with you. And I might be able to remove that red line that I put in there too with you, Michael. You're special. Thank you, Jemiah. Ashley Chapman, thank you so much for your time. Is there a wait list for FGC, Julie? Not at this time. We have some space to be able to receive some referrals for family or youth. So if you want to refer someone to us or have a conversation with me individually about what the referral process could look like, please do so. I will put my email in the chat, although I know that there's going to be something sent out where you'll probably receive it that way too. But I just want to make sure that you folks have it so that you can connect with me. There you go. All right. Any questions, thoughts, comments, concern, freestyles, poetry, rap lyrics? What's going on? Vanya, I have to pop out, but thanks so much for this presentation, Danielle. Thank you, Vanya. Enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend. Anything else? Bobby, you look like you might have a question. Maybe you don't. I just like your hat. What's going
Yeah,
on?
thank you. I don't have a question. I'm just reflecting on the importance of this work. I've kind of been in this sector of conferencing and network developments for youth and youth aging out of care. I've been in child welfare for so long, and it was just sort of a bit inspiring to hear you and having some nuance in particular culture and sector, not a generic approach, and putting that in the forefront of how you guys are operating. So it's pretty cool to listen to you guys.
Thank you. Now, Bobby, listen, I have a question, and this is completely off topic. But you got fangs there, Bobby. Am I saying this wrong? I think,
Thanks.
yeah, you got some fangs there. Am I wrong?
I don't know.
Bobby's
Maybe.
teeth there. It looks nice. I was saying, wow, I haven't seen anybody.
Well, no, I
That's
don't know.
cool.
I haven't
Bobby's
heard that before.
frozen.
Maybe they're
Maybe I'm frozen.
longer than
Who
the
knows?
average person. But no, I know. Don't. It's daylight.
Any
I'm
other
outside right
questions
now.
or
So
thoughts, comments, concerns? I might be frozen there. Am I unfrozen now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Mostly, Bobby, I was saying I like your teeth. They look really good on you. Um, They look real good. The hat and the teeth. Bobby wins today. Um, my internet is kind of unstable here, so I'm gonna try to stick with it.
There's one more question in the chat.
Okay, just a quick question regarding youth requiring TAY supports and work. Victor, now listen, I need you to talk with me about these acronyms. What's
I'm
a
sorry.
AY and what's a DOS? Be my friend and explain those to me.
All good. It's more so just for youth who, for capacity concerns, they need adult services as they transition out of care.
Hmm.
Typically, an assessment has to be done before they kind of hit that 18 mark, and there's work with like the developmental services
Hmm.
to facilitate that transition. And so I've worked with several youth who are transitioning out of care in in my previous role. And I'm just curious about integrating that piece with the cultural safety. Like, have you worked with youth who've been transitioned into adult services out of care? And I'm just curious how that has gone in terms of that cultural safety component. And the reason I say it is, like about a month ago, I worked with the youth who had to be placed in a very small like white community, and that was like a challenge because there was that cultural safety component was kind of lacking in that transition plan. So I'm just kind of curious how maybe your organization would work with that, for example, with a Black youth that would fall into that category.
Right. That's a great question, Victor. And we are in the process. So specifically, Dr. Lance McCready is working with a group of individuals who've aged out of care, leaders, what we call them, leaders who've aged out of care. And this is my first time hearing about TAYRDOS. So I would like for you and I
It's
to talk.
CSO, sorry, I put it in
Yeah,
wrong.
no worries. I would
Yeah.
love to be able to talk with you more specifically, because there have been those instances where youth have been placed in these environments that aren't the best for them to thrive. So then we come in and we try to support with ways to make it so, right?
Mhm.
You're in this environment, but what are some ways that we can still support you? So, yes, when the email comes out with more information in there, please make sure that you and I connect. I would love to.
Would love to. Thank you.
Thank you
Great
so much. And
presentation.
thank you, Bobby, for putting that in the chat. And I'm sorry, Victor, were you still speaking?
I just said great presentation. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. And thank you, Bobby, for putting that in the chat. I appreciate you. Anyone else?
Hey, Danielle. If I
Hi,
can,
Daniel.
my name's Daniel, so we share a name, and I think that's lovely.
I think it worked out perfectly. Daniel and Danielle, the dynamic duo.
There you go. First of all, I think importantly, and I actually suspect I speak on behalf of all of us, that you are here in the context of your own kind of personal circumstance, shows how committed you are to the work you're doing. And I, for one, wanted to personally thank you. Your presentation was awesome. And the work that you're doing resonates huge with me. Um, uh, I want to get your contact information so I can connect with you, share some work that we're doing, and see if somehow we might be able to help each other. Because I worked in the Ontario child welfare system for just under 25 years, at the latter part of my career with a lot of older age youth, and was completely motivated to do different and create different, for the same reasons you're doing the work that you're doing. So that's a long way of saying thank you.
Mhm.
And please do share your contact information, and there we go.
I got you. I put it in there
Yeah.
again. Yeah, and thank you. I would love the opportunity to talk more. And thank you for your service as well. When I hear folks say they've been at this 10 years, 20 years, 5 years, it's incredible because this is hard work. And it seems like sometimes it's one step forward, two steps back, two steps forward. But we keep showing up and we keep doing what we can and we see impact. So thank
Yes,
you
ma'am.
for your service. And thanks for being here today. You could have been anywhere else, but you're here with me. Wonderful. Anyone else? We got about 4 minutes. I see Jackie Nib. Your hand is raised. Would you like to
Yes.
talk? You have a question?
Hi, good afternoon. I loved your presentation. I appreciate it so much. I am from Catholic Children's Aid Society, and I see, like, without a doubt, the benefits of the work that you're doing. It's in alignment with the Ready, Set, Go program
Mhm.
that is provincial, but I could see how our organization and others who embrace the work that you're doing, how beneficial it could be in really pushing forward the need to center youth's voices, the need to ensure all those components are in place, and really having that external advocate at that table to really be able to ensure that there's accountability, which I think is important in context to all the work that we do. So what I'm also wondering is, are you open to coming into some of the societies and doing the presentation? Because unfortunately, there aren't enough of us here today to hear
Absolutely.
your work.
Yeah.
And so I think it would be critical if we could hear it and that it could be embraced and workers then could be on board with what you're doing.
Absolutely, Jackie. I would love to. I'm going to drop my email in there again. I'm just dropping it in there a couple of times for folks who pick up on the chat where you do. But I would love to. And you can send me an email
Yeah.
and you and I can coordinate that. I would absolutely love to.
Okay. Thank you so much.
And your glasses are really nice. They look well on your face.
Thank you.
Yeah. Absolutely, Alex B. Yes, indeed. Send me an email.
I want to be respectful of your time and just
Thank
extend
you.
a huge, immense thank you to you from all of us for spending your valuable time and sharing some profound insight in the impact and the work that you do for this community and for all communities. And yeah, like we said before, I'll make sure that Danielle's information is also in the follow-up email because it seems a lot of people want to get involved in the work you do, which is incredible. I see some people sharing their emails as well. Amazing.
Karen, thank you.
Again, we will be sharing the recording to this meeting as well as any other resources that Danielle would like to share with you all. So we'll be in touch, if not tomorrow, in a couple days. Thank you all so much for joining us and for spending some of your time to be with us as well. And as you might know, we do this on a monthly basis, so we're excited for our August presentation as well. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you
This
so
was
much.
incredible.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Hey, Talisa. I had to give a shout out to Talisa Bond. Hello,
Hey
Talisa.
girl, hey, congrats.
Hey, girl. Hey.
I'm not video ready, but congrats.
It's all good. Glad you're here with us. No, and thank you so much, everyone. Again, really, I appreciate you all taking the time out to be here, right? I like to run with this idea that together we get better. We are the mastermind collective. We all know a little bit about a lot. And so when we come together, man, we can strike an incredible blow in what's going on. So glad you're here. Thank you so much, Gaia. You were amazing. Thank you. Also, Roger, others who supported. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hope you all enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend.
thank you. You too.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.